I've definitely learned a lot this last few years. And now I'm on that journey. I'm like, I love it.
Welcome to Island Influencers, where we share stories of successful business owners, experienced professionals, entrepreneurs, and community leaders based or with influence in the Isle of Man. This podcast is brought to you by Thornton Chartered Financial Planners, because great financial planning has the power to change your life. Now here's your host, Sharon Sutton.
This week, my island influencer is a pretty rare find, especially on the Isle of Man. Emma Lings is a furniture maker creating bespoke, handcrafted furniture and naturally dyed textiles. Emma explains that she's only just become self-employed since returning to the island from Melbourne, Australia as the pandemic hit. Throughout our conversation, it became very apparent to me that if Emma doesn't know it, she learns it. Emma isn't afraid to ask questions and shows great determination and hard work in everything she turns her hand to. Do listen to Emma Ling's amazing story in episode 81 of Island Influencers. So welcome Emma Lings to the Island Influencers podcast studio today. It's really nice to meet you. And I read all about you. I think it was in one of the lockdowns. You had a piece all about you in the Examiner on your woodworking career and where you've been. I thought, wow, what a story. It took me a while to get around to inviting you, so I'm sorry about that, but I'm so thrilled that you've joined us today, all the way from Cronkovody.
All the way. It's been a long trip here, but I've made it.
So anybody who didn't read your article, could you start by telling our listeners all about you, please? Because there's some really interesting things from the story, and I really want you to sort of tell them in your own words.
Yeah, so I'm a furniture maker.
Which is pretty rare.
Yeah, it is rare. Maybe on the Isle of Man, it is more so. So I make furniture. I've only just gone self-employed when I came back to the island, which was at the very start of the pandemic. Before that, I was living in Melbourne, in Australia. So that was where I did my training.
Okay, so you don't just go from the Isle of Man to live in Melbourne, Australia. So what was your path? What was your path to get there?
Actually, it was complete. I would love to say it was like I knew I was going there, but I didn't. I was actually travelling. I wanted to get to New Zealand, and people had told me that it was too expensive to get to New Zealand. You needed money to go there and to maybe stop in Australia.
Yeah.
To earn some money to get there. And then I moved there, and it was just a series of really good events. I kind of just fell into a really nice group of friends, one of which was leaving Australia. They worked in a theatre company, a set design company,
right,
and were like, you should go for my job. And I just did.
Okay.
And
so were you always into making? I mean, like I say making, because that's what we call making at home.
Well, I did a textiles degree, so I was actually more, and the textiles was more like fine art based.
Okay.
And
so where did you do that?
That was in Cardiff.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I finished my degree, I just thought, why have I done this? I don't want to be an artist. I don't want that. Well, for me, basically I got ripped off by someone straight away as soon as I came out of uni.
Oh gosh.
It was like my degree show. I'd thought I had this big break, and I was just really naive and kind of gave all my designs without payment, and it just really made me think, I don't want to do this. I would rather try and learn a trade, or I just couldn't handle the instability of money, not knowing when your paycheck was coming in, or
right. Okay, that's really interesting.
Funny though, because it's a full turnaround, because self-employment, you still don't know.
It's a sort of it's a hole in the plot there. Gosh, what a shame.
Yeah, but it was a bit of a lesson straight from uni.
Yeah. So on the textiles degree, did they not teach you things like aspects of business management?
No, not at all. That's why I think I was quite young and I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I just knew that I liked textiles. Yeah. And I was always kind of more so pushed to do what you enjoy rather than what's going to earn money.
Oh, and the path back to that was, so how did you end up getting from
there to
school,
there?
Yeah, from school to university, doing the textiles degree in the first place?
From school, I also just loved textiles, loved art, and actually it was just a woman in Laxey, actually, Justine Ball, who is an incredible seamstress. I took some work. I asked if she could teach me how to make curtains, like handmade curtains, and I was doing essentially I was like volunteering for a while, but also then she was paying me, and then I just kind of she just took me under her wing a bit, taught me a lot.
So like a mentor, exactly a mentor, in fact.
Yeah. And she's amazing. She's like such a creative powerhouse. And she's still working now in Laxey, and she's great. So she taught me, but I was actually saying this. So I did that. Then I went to uni, and kind of came out of that, had the bad experience, came back to the island and was like, I would rather learn a trade and maybe use at the start, I wanted to actually make like paint fabrics and stuff and kind of put it onto furniture. So I thought, well, maybe you should be an upholsterer. So then I actually went to David Glover and was like, can you teach me, or can I learn a little bit from you? And he was amazing as well. It was actually after uni, I'd go on Friday afternoons when he was in Port St Mary, and he would just let me do my own project, kind of have it there, and I would just
some great acts of kindness.
Yeah, that's
your career. Yeah.
It's actually funny because it was only since I've been asked, since maybe this article last year. Actually, there was another one a while back, and it gave me a chance to reflect on how I've got from A to B.
Yes,
and it's multiple acts of generosity, people kind of wanting to share their trade with you, which you don't get. I mean, I feel like you get a lot of people that do actually want to protect their trade. But that's not the sort of person you want to be, is it? You want to, No, but I do think it's a difference in if how stable or confident you feel in your position, then you're more so wanting to show and share it with people. But maybe when you're just coming up, you're a bit like, oh, I don't know. Just kind of need to be private at the moment, which I get as well.
Yeah. That's fascinating.
And I've had it with the house build as well. Me kind of like when I'd get to each stage, when I wanted to learn how to make windows, I went to Jimmy Derbyshire in Douglas and was like, can I use your machinery? And he was more than,
fantastic.
Use my machinery. And then I got to the glazing bit and I spoke to Stephen Wormsley in Derby and was like, what is the best way to do this? And he kind of gave me little tips of the trade that you would never know unless you were already doing that trade. But because of the house build, it's like I'm never...
Incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, so we got to... No, so we had this bad experience with textiles from university.
Yeah.
And you came back to the Isle of Man and
I came back
decided
to
do a trade.
Yeah, and I didn't actually straight away. I came back, did a little bit of upholstery with David Glover, and that was... I think I decided that I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I did the classic, like, I'm going away, travelling, I'm going to go places, and I think I was more so framing it in my head of, like, I'm going to be inspired by the world now. And, so I was just saving money, and I was just working here for a year and volunteering or just doing bits with David Glover and Justine. I was doing them both, actually, so I was helping... learning to sew in that,
but getting an unofficial apprenticeship.
Unofficial, and then so I travelled for a little bit, then went to textiles, and like I said, I fell into this.
That's called an internship, actually, isn't it? I think I just remembered. That's called an internship.
Not being paid. And then I fell into this job, which was set design, and I think that was an incredible experience for me because it's kind of the people you worked with. It was like these really eccentric characters that maybe all actually wanted to be in the theatre but didn't quite make it, so then they kind of became trades in the background or something. So it was just such a fun...
A massively important part of creating someone's vision, you
oh my God. Yeah. No, it's huge. And they were all so talented. And I think that was the first time I was like, you see welders, you see carpenters, you see like ceramicists all in the same shop floor. And also that was what I think I'd said in
Sounds like the repair workshop. Have you seen that?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It kind of is, yeah. I used to think it was like this really weird, we used to call the guy who ran it, he was like a puppeteer of freak shows because everyone was just really really eccentric but amazing at their craft. The woman there who's my good friend now, she was a head carpenter. And I think I'd said before that it was like that was the first kind of light bulb moment where I was like, I'd never really been exposed to a woman in trade before. And also a tiny woman. She's so petite. And she'd just be carrying these like massive boards with no struggle. Yeah. And she just kind of owned the show. She was amazing. I was terrified of her at the start, to be fair. Yeah. But she it was maybe my first moment where I was like, oh, I've never really thought about that before.
Yeah.
But when I look back now, I wanted, I think, to do carpentry, which was like, bigger. She was making massive frames and huge things, but that still felt very intimidating. So I thought furniture was like a smaller, I don't know, you can kind of, you're not on site with the big scary men. That's what it felt like at the time.
Yeah.
And so then I worked at that place. I worked at the set design place for 2 years, I think, but I was always just a trade assistant. And then I asked them if I could take Fridays off and learn. I went on a woodworking course, so I would do Monday to Thursday with them.
And that was in Melbourne?
In Melbourne. And then I took Fridays to do this fine woodworking course. And they just taught you the very basics of just like your dovetails and, all the joinery. And it was only maybe 10, 12-week course or something.
Yeah, and they give you all the workshop access and all the tools, save you having to buy all these special
and just also give you the time and the space to make mistakes and chat. And it was just a lot rather than the hustle and bustle. Mm-hmm. So then after that, I was like, I want to do an apprenticeship. So then
fantastic.
Yeah, did my apprenticeship, but I did it out there in Melbourne.
So what year would that have been by the time you finished that?
I finished in 2019.
Right. Okay.
So I only had 1 year after. I was quite lucky because all through my apprenticeship I was working with the same. I quit the theatre and I went to a really tiny family-run fine furniture company, and so I stayed with them throughout the whole apprenticeship. I would work with them and then go to school. I think I was doing my trade 3 days a week, working with them 2 days a week, and then on the school holidays work full time with them.
Yeah.
And then when I finished in 2019, I did a full year with them, and then the pandemic, and then I just left.
Yeah. So you came back and you...
So I came back.
What was that like? I mean, how...
It was very different.
When you travelled, was it because the Isle of Man was closing down at that time, or... I mean, what was going through your head at the time?
When I left Melbourne for here?
Yeah.
Well, actually, it's funny looking back now. I can see what I was actually thinking. At the time, it was just like, you just kind of go. But now when I look back, there was a point where I was like, I don't feel like I'm in the driver's seat of my own life. I don't know. I just felt like I loved Melbourne. I still love Melbourne. But I feel like I was not...
looking out the window. Yeah.
Yeah, but then it's still... I don't know. I felt like I was just working, but to know... Like I didn't know what I was just on autopilot. But I think it was more that because you're behind the scenes, you get given a job, you do the job from start to finish, you send it off, and that's it. And it just felt like... It was fine, but now I'm in this position where you meet the customers. And I think that's the thing that like made it all come alive again, because before I started working for myself, I actually kind of fell out of love with the whole thing. And I was like, maybe I don't want to do this. You start working for yourself.
So you're missing that
customer connection. Yeah. Because you can actually, you're going to, I can go to a customer, they show me a space, they show me what they want, and you can literally work with them to make something that is exactly what they want. And then you also see that appreciation at the end. You see that someone's like, I love this. This is exactly what I want. And I don't know, you by the end of a project, you kind of feel attached to it. So you're like, I'm glad you're in a good home.
Oh, that's so funny. All right. So then you came back and you decided, right.
Well, I think it all kind of, I didn't realize when I was leaving Melbourne, it was all just, it was happening. I wasn't thinking. But now I look at it. When I was out there, I was actually helping someone build a tiny house. It was so that was the first kind of like watching, you see it happen and you're oh, it kind of sparked something. And then actually when COVID hit, because I didn't have residency over there, COVID hit, I couldn't work. You kind of lose all your power. Because you're just like, I'm out here, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know where I'm...
It's weird.
It's really weird.
And Australia's been quite weird about the whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But this was at the very start. It all felt so unknown.
Yeah.
And when I just remember thinking about what was back here, what I could be doing back here, which was the first time... I mean, like I was away for 7 years without really questioning. I don't know, I was questioning, but I started while I was in lockdown there. I started looking into, which is so random now I think about it, but looking into, planning permission on the Isle of Man, how you could go about maybe doing something. And I actually read it all wrong while I was out there, but I mean, it got me back. But yeah. And I was reading about like permitted developments, and you could build certain things without planning permission and stuff like that, which actually turned out not what I did. But I don't know, I just had this thing of like, I want to do a really big project and I want to do it myself, or I want to do it from start to finish. I don't know what I think I was like grasping at independence. It was like COVID was all happening and I just felt like it was the 30s as well. You're 30 and you're like, I've got nothing to my name. I need to do something.
So you decided to come home?
So I decided to come home to mummy and daddy. Yeah. No, it just I came home.
Yeah. What would you do? I mean,
it was
exactly the right thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And and then I just kind of set this focus, and that's still where I'm at.
Yeah. So the benefit of our listeners, just to explain, you came back and you took on the project of your parents' garage. Is that right?
For my workshop. Yeah. So I came. Well, actually, that was before I came back. I actually called my dad and said, I'm thinking of coming back. If I was to come back, could I?
Yeah.
Completely just like pull your garage to pieces and turn it into a workshop and work from there.
So was it a functional garage before you came back, or was it a bit of a wreck?
He just had it was just more of storage.
Oh, okay.
It was definitely not a wreck. It
looks from the pictures like stone built.
That's a completely different thing.
Okay.
So no, the garage was just where I was working from.
Right, okay.
But when I came back, I had actually tried to put such a long story, but it was like I wanted to make a house on their land. They have fields in Cronkovody, and that was where I wanted to do it. But after getting fully into town and planning, because I didn't know anything about that. So actually the first lockdown on the Isle of Man, I just spent days reading online all of the Isle of Man town and planning, how the hell you can get it through.
Yeah.
And talking. They also have an advisory service that if you just literally sit there and wait for them, they have to talk to you at some point. And so going through all these different things, I realised I couldn't do that. And I had to, the only way I could do it was if I used something that was
already there. Footprint.
Yeah, because they're on agricultural land.
Yeah, sure.
So there used to be this shed, which is not that. It used to be this like stone shed, which I have found out now it had no foundations, and I just kind of had to just do the whole thing. But that was the only way to get it through.
Yeah, okay.
To use that.
Yeah.
So during that first lockdown, I did, again, Isle of Man spirit, and a man I met, a friend of a friend, he just gave me so much advice about how you could get it through to planning. And he showed me, that if you go onto the planning portal, you can see, because every time you put something through, it has to go public. So you can also look at other people's drawings, like how it was set out. Yeah. And I just kind of took inspiration on just like how to lay it out as if it's a proper...
Some good practice tips, I guess.
Yeah, practice tips. And then, don't know, it just sounds manic now. I just spent morning to night, that whole first lockdown, learning how to, like learning the software, how to draw the house, how to, like YouTube tutorials, just watching people how to do it. And then
that's amazing.
It's insane when I think about it.
It's not. It's phenomenal. Well done.
But also so much help. Like I would draw it, and then I would send it to this friend, and he'd be like, "Yep, that looks good. I'd probably change this, maybe do that."
Yeah.
And then eventually sent it into planning, and then they sent it back approved. And then even then, I got an email from a guy in planning that had seen me the first time round when I just asked for advice, and he was like, "Did you do this yourself?" Like,
wow,
I can't believe you actually wangled that or did it. And I was like, yeah, I don't know.
Fantastic, well done.
Yeah, it's been.
So you're at the point now where the it's gone from concept to
happening.
Yeah,
I mean,
and I've been following you on Instagram, which is some great videos on there.
Yeah,
even the footprint on the wood. How did you get that off in the end?
No,
it's still that's character.
That's what I keep saying with everything, and it's so funny. It's such a different world to furniture, because I think with furniture you're so precise and fiddly. And then it's kind of gone this other way where it's like now. I mean, at the start, I was so precious with things because I didn't know carpentry is a whole different world. I didn't know what I was doing. You're just starting starting out again. But I was very precious with how, and now I'm just like, oh, there's a footprint there. There's something there. It's all character.
So when do you think you might be able to move in?
Ooh, well, I never wanted to move in myself. I wanted it as kind of like an Airbnb or, like something, because the view's so incredible. That was the whole thing that I was like, I wanted it to be this really nice staycation on the island.
And you still got your workshop elsewhere.
I got my workshop elsewhere.
Right.
But it's funny because now as I'm building it, I'm like, it's really nice in here, isn't it? I'm really gunning for TT in June, July. I don't know if that's not...
Well, I mean, it's on the course, isn't it?
It's prime location for the TT folk.
So it was the next one, erect a grandstand.
Yeah, that's the next one.
Sell tickets. Yeah. So you said at some point that the building has been sort of all kind of encompassing, and it's kind of I guess that's impacted on your
business.
Your business. I mean, I looked at your website and all the sort of the nice textiles and stuff that you.
Everything's sold out.
So what? It's sold out. So what are you going to plan to restock that, rebuild that now?
Yeah, I want to, but at the time, at one point I was trying to do both, but I felt like I wasn't doing either of them well because I was juggling both, and I was just kind of like, I'm so much of a fresh business that I don't want to get a bad reputation before I start. So, I was actually, and everyone was really lovely. I had, I think, 5 people that I was supposed to do work for, and I just messaged them saying, I just can't do 2 at once.
Okay.
And as soon as I'm back, I'll get in touch. And they were like, really lovely. So they were like, I mean, to be fair, 4 out of 5 were like, that's okay, we'll wait for you. And I was like, amazing.
It's because they really want you to do it.
Yes, which is really, really nice. Yeah. So I'm hoping...
I might say that you're really, really good and they're worth waiting for. What do you think?
I also have great confidence.
It's fine, you're in the right place. That's an amazing story, and thank you for sharing that so far. But I'm going to just, if that's all right with you, I'm just going to move on to the questions. And we did kind of touch on this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So in my day job, I always ask people, right, okay, so what was money like for you growing up? What was your earliest memories of money, and how do you think it kind of shapes who you are today? I was thinking about this one because I was talking to a friend trying to be like, what is my earliest memory? Because I in no way had a unfortunate financial, I was like, I think I've had a really good upbringing in money senses. So I've never had the fact that I couldn't think of an early memory made me think, well, money was obviously not a big issue back then. But the only early memory I had was me, I must have been under 8 because I was still living in the UK. And I remember asking my dad for pocket money. And I said, I'll do all the ironing and all the dishwashing if I, for a pocket money. And he was like, okay, if you do this and this, then yeah, you could get a pocket money. And what were you thinking? And I was like, 50p. And then he was like, okay, 50p. It's fair hourly rate. 50p, yeah. And then I remember a few weeks in being like, I'm doing a lot of work for 50p. Interesting. Yeah. So you're already ascribing. Well, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah. And nowadays, that's really pretty advanced thinking for an 8-year-old. Or just I don't know. But I didn't really think about it. I was only because I was telling a friend, and she was like, "Yeah, that's pretty." Yeah. So, do you think the lessons that you've learned from your upbringing with your parents, do you think you bring that forward today to how you? Because I noticed that you said in your article that you sometimes have trouble assigning value to what you do. Definitely. Yeah. Definitely. But I also, speaking to other business owners where you're just starting out, it does seem to be common, I think. Because you're like, I don't know, especially because you just don't know the value of your own work because you've been doing it for you've been doing it for so long, and also you've witnessed all the times
where you've not done it very well because you're learning.
Yeah, so it's getting a balance, isn't it, between charging for your incompetence and giving away your expertise for free.
Yeah. I remember back in the day, if I was doing a job that I didn't really know what I was doing, I'd charge like a way lesser rate because I'm like, oh, well, I'm learning on the job. And it's like, actually, that's, you're paying for all the years that you've been learning that craft and you've been trying to fine tune it. And also, if you're wanting to create a life for yourself or live how you want to live, you need to earn money. You need to charge.
Yeah.
But I think it's still a funny spot, but I'm definitely better than I was.
Fabulous. It's a journey.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So all the things you've done throughout your life so far, what's given you the most fulfillment so far, would you say?
I mean, I definitely think it's the house.
Yeah.
Because I don't think I've ever been fully in control of a project before. Or like, I've always had imposter syndrome. Always like had a little, I don't know whether it's just lack of confidence or something. And it's like, this project has kind of like forced you. It's like forced me to back myself. Like even when you're like trying to put the planning in, it was just like, I don't know, there was no like, oh, it might not happen. It was like, I have to make it happen. I've definitely learned a lot this last few years. And also, I mean, starting up on my own, I never thought I'd do that. And now I'm on that journey. I'm like, I love it.
Yeah. How does that make you feel?
Pretty proud. Yeah.
I should think so.
I mean, I'm reading this book at the moment, which just plows into it. It's black box thinking, or like learning from failures.
Yeah, excellent.
And I think all the way along, maybe also when I was first in trade, as I don't want to go down that road, but like as a woman or whatever, I just felt like you were more so. If I made a mistake or if I didn't know something, I'd kind of hide it because you're trying to like just be like everyone else. Like not, I don't know. I just felt like I wouldn't ask questions because I didn't want to sound stupid. But in actual fact, it doesn't help you. You just end up so much further behind. And I think over time, I've realized that there's no shame in asking questions or in saying you don't know. And
a wise person once told me there's no such thing as a stupid question.
And it's so true. And I think, I think I've done that socially as well. When you're in a conversation maybe about politics or about something that I just don't know, but you don't want to say because you'll think, oh, someone thinks you're stupid, and it's just not true.
So for your position now, from what you've done, what's your number one tip for anybody aspiring for a business owner or an entrepreneur?
I think a few things, but I definitely think, I don't know, if you battle with imposter syndrome, which I just think is so annoying but so real, and it holds people back. And this like fear of failure, perfectionism, it's all such a joke. And I think if you can just push through it, you kind of end up like loving your mistakes because you just like learn from them and also you forget them again. Like I think you build them up to be this huge thing on a pedestal that you're like, oh, but if I get that wrong, this is going to mean X, Y, Z. You just attach this story to it. And it's like, actually, you'll probably mess up heaps of times. It makes you know less. It makes you so much better because by the end you've like...
So you worry about things more than they actually deserve.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Way more.
What's the point in that then?
Don't know. I just think, if you've got any idea or any...
That makes you who you are and good at what you do, hey?
Yeah. And I just think, just do it.
Yeah. Excellent. So what do you do when you're relaxing? Keeping your life in balance.
Relaxing. I love my friends. Literally just going and having a big laugh. Just like laughing with friends is my joy. Keeping me balanced.
What do you laugh at? Or with?
Mainly
for
stupid. So just anything and everything. I think that's the best type of friendship, when you're literally just laughing doing nothing. Sea swimming and running keeps my stress levels down. I think when I'm about to blow, it's usually because I haven't been for a run or if I haven't jumped in the sea.
Okay, right.
So that's a good thing.
Yeah, I've heard a few guests lately talk about sea swimming, and I'm thinking, is it a thing?
Oh my God.
Should I be trying it?
You should definitely be trying it.
It's way too cold.
I waded through seaweed in Fenella Beach yesterday, the day before.
Ooh.
And that was actually the first time in maybe a month or so. And I was dreading it way more. And then as soon as you get in, you're like, it's just
that thing again.
Yep. It's so true.
So what's the best things about living in the Isle of Man, would you say?
The stereotypical, it's beautiful, it's magical. It's like you can get out camping within an hour's notice and just frolic in the hills. Or the ocean. Actually, I did not realise how much I miss the ocean, being away from it, and now living, 2-minute drive from it. Really, really has been amazing. But actually, when I reflect back on that whole story, I'm like, probably the people, kind of everyone, as soon as you ask for help, people are usually so willing to give
Amazing,
it.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Superb. But there are challenges, aside from the cost of materials that you mentioned in that. So what do you think are the main challenges that you face in the Isle of Man?
That one is huge.
Yeah.
And not just even material prices going up, but like the add-ons, the shipping to the island, which, that's always been a thing. It's never not been, but everything is going up.
Yeah.
So I do think, if you're selling anything handmade, it's always expensive, but having to also add these excess costs from materials. Yeah. You're almost feeling bad before you're giving, that's difficult.
You do. But there are, what about the solutions to that though? I noticed that you've in your own project, you've upcycled or recycled and
as much as you can.
Yeah.
And I do think there's, in the house, I've tried to it's been a while now. I've been squirreling away bits and bobs.
Yeah.
And it ends up being, it's more charm anyway.
Yeah.
But anything recycled or upcycling is
great. And working with wood like you do. For me, I all the Dutch elm disease and all the ash dieback, it kind of makes me think about what we have here as a raw material. Do you use much of that, or is it?
I would love to, more so than I do. I think on the island, when I first got back, I had no idea about where you buy timber, or
you go to the sawmill. It's a pretty limited range. Is it just
it's also
pine and
cedar, and
cedar
it's not furniture grade. You couldn't really, but after going around everywhere, all the different timber yards, there's not an awful lot you can use for furniture.
Is there any way that could change?
Yes. Definitely. I've spoken to so many people about this. It's like, I would love if someone just, dedicated their career to I know loads of people that do kiln dry, and and you do have a lot, but it's just about if it's not kiln drying, it takes 3-4 years to dry out to be used in furniture.
Yeah, I know.
So that could definitely happen. I do know lots of people that are milling their own, and I'm like, one day maybe collaboration, try and get it all.
Is there anything you can do about that?
Yeah, I don't know actually, because a lot of joiners that I know over here actually do ship for get from the UK and bring over.
It's insanely expensive to do that. Plus, it's not supporting local and
and
exactly. There's the climate footprint of that.
Yeah.
You've got wood here and all that elm goes and gets burnt.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah. It would be amazing if that... Yeah. I also think that is just a small island problem when you first get back and you're like, I'm not dealing with Melbourne anymore. It's you don't have all the timber shops, all the hardware shops, everything sitting there. It's just... But I think the Isle of Man is definitely growing.
So what's next for you with the house coming towards, looks to me not far off. Well, the outside looks pretty done anyway.
Definitely getting it. I think...
What's next for you? Short term?
My rough plan, is I want to get that to a stage of, renting and looking beautiful. And then I want to go back and focus on my work furniture. I'm hoping, because I'm going to do all the kitchen, build the bathroom, basically build all the furniture in the house.
Yeah.
So from that, I kind of wanted to maybe create a little collection of furniture that, can be bought. Or hopefully I will just get some nice, lovely customers that will, see pieces in there. And I'm just going to, once the house is done, I think I just want to full focus on...
Focus back on that. Yeah. And longer term, do you see another property in there?
I would love to. It's just money, isn't it? But that is the goal. I'm since doing this, even though it's probably been the most stressful thing I've ever done, and there's been times where I've been like, I've really struggled, I also think it's so fun and I love it.
Yeah.
And
amazing.
It's, incredible to do.
Brilliant. So here's a last few fun questions that we always ask, and our listeners like to know this. So you mentioned Black Box Thinking by Matthew Syed. Anything else that you've read?
I was thinking about this yesterday. I don't know if this is but it really inspired me, but it's not really a book. It's called Passion, Purpose, Profit by Fiona Kalaki. And the book is good, but it's a bit of a, you're reading it, but also it's like a kind of workbook as well. Mm-hmm. But actually it's based on her podcast called My Daily Business Coach. And I thought that was amazing. Yeah. But I was actually listening to it a lot at the start when I first was like, well, I'm going self-employed, I better listen to these things. But actually it's to do with business, but it's also so not. It's more curating a life that you want through your business. Mm-hmm. So I thought it was really inspiring. And she has lots of different guests on, and I thought it was really good.
Ah, wonderful.
But her book, I bought her book straight after that as well, and I thought it was really
lovely. We'll definitely put that in the show notes. And so who inspires you? You've mentioned loads of people, actually, but is there anybody particularly?
This question actually was like the stickiest for me, because I was like, I don't know who, like, I can't think of anyone in particular. But like, I get inspired by people all the time, like different, I don't know, not like, certain famous people or whatever. It's like, it's usually people that are like just doing business owners, or I don't know. I really can't answer that question. I get inspired by people all the time.
That's a wonderful answer. You can't answer a better one than that. Have you got a favourite quote?
Again, this is what I was trying to think of who said this. I'm probably going to butcher it, but one thing that I thought was really kept ticking over my head for ages was there's two types of people in the world, where one will have an idea and they'll think it's really great, and then they'll tell their friend that idea, and then the friend will be like, that's really great, and then they're like, yeah, it is, isn't it? And then they just sit with that like false sense of success. And then there's another person that will have an idea and they won't tell anyone, and they'll just like work and work and work and work and work until it's like, in fruition. I can't remember who told me that story or who did that, but I thought that was really great.
So where can people go to learn all about you? You've got a cool website. We'll put that in the show notes.
Got my website.
You're on Instagram.
I'm on Instagram. Instagram's usually, the main place that at the moment. Yeah. And also, even when I'm taking on work, it's been kind of chat to me on Instagram and then send me an email on my website.
Yeah, which is how we got in touch.
Yeah,
it works.
Yeah, it works.
Okay, wonderful. We'll put all those details, we'll link them up in the show notes so that listeners can go find you.
And thank you.
Thank you so much for coming and sharing your story. It's been fun.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Thank you.